Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TCG Talk. Back today with another video, and today we're going to be doing a deck tech on a new deck that I've made for the upcoming season before Everfest comes out. Obviously, this is pending what we get in Everfest, but kind of in this lull period that we're having right now, just kind of fun experiment with different decks. If you want to check out my last video, I talked about Lexi, specifically talking about the Voltaire and the Shiver builds, and I think obviously, like we know. Voltaire is the more popular build. It's more consistent for the most part, especially in the high aggro meta we had. In order to keep up without doing the snapshot Death Dealer combo, Voltaire was probably your best option, right? Uh, when it came to dealing with those aggro builds while also doing decent against the rest of the field. However, one thing I wanted to talk about going into Everfest, right? Prior to seeing Everfest cards. So this is subject to change, but I think right now you're going to start seeing a little bit more of a control mid-range meta. At the very top, I actually think you're going to see more control meta. I think you're going to see Oldheim. I think you're going to see Bravo. I think you're going to see Aura Prism, personally. So I think at the top, you're going to kind of have control in Flesh and Blood terms. And then kind of the not S tier, but A tier decks gonna be like Dash, right? You're gonna have her come back into the meta. You're gonna have other different decks come back in the meta. I think you'll still have some aggro decks. I think Briar's still gonna be decent, right? Rhinar and Levy will be decent. Katsu really got hurt with the Plunder Run ban going against control decks. So I don't think you'll see him as much. But all that to say, right? So what does that mean? I think that Shiver should get a little bit more love than she gets. Personally, with going into the new meta. So talking about this is the Shiver build I have. So the thought of this deck is instead of Voltairing twice per turn, and twice that's if you have the resources to pay, because you're going to need at least four resources depending on how it goes for the most part, unless you Arsenal or Arrow the turn prior. You're going to need four resources. And with playing Oldheim and playing people with heavy defense reactions, sometimes they can really cover up a lot of what you're doing. Not all the time, but it's easier for them to, especially Oldheim. So thinking in Shiver, using these high dominate attacks with a lot of pump cards, so you're getting 8 to 12 damage per turn on average. Sometimes even higher if you have a three of a kind turn or have a little bit of go again with your perch grapplers. To be able to guarantee those on hit effects while pushing out some decent damage, right? So a normal turn with this deck is going to look even after them blocking, you're going to push 3 to 6 damage, probably, maybe even more. Who knows? If you're not playing Oldheim, it'll probably be more. If you're playing Oldheim, it'll be a little bit less. But you're also getting pretty severe on hit effects. Uh, and then on top of that, you're using your occasional lightning cards and your perch grabblers to get go again for pivot turns. So looking into this deck, for the equipment, I don't have Findle Spring Tunic in here because I don't own one. Definitely use Tunic if you have it. I use Deep Blue because it's really good. If you draw four reds, you can sync one with Deep Blue and then basically get a blue for pitch. So it's really useful for that. So you don't have dead hands as easy. Um, New Horizon's a must in this deck. Like you need New Horizon, even with the Shiver build. So that's kind of to have those two arsenal slots is really important. Purge Grapplers is normally not used a lot in the Voltaire builds. It's more used for block than anything, but it's really good in this deck because on those three of a kind turns you can use you can use Purge Grapplers in order, or even if you flip an Electrify, right, your next attack gets go again, and you draw a card when you play it, and then maybe you use Perch Grapplers to give your next two attacks, right? Go again, 100%. So it's definitely a little bit more viable, I think, in the Shiver build to use it. And then Shock Charmers is in order to hit those on hit effects. Anything that deals damage, you instant speed Shock Charmer, it does the same effect twice. An example of this is Chilling Ice Vein that reads, when fused, whenever an attack deals damage this turn, they discard a card unless they pay one. So if that Chilling Ice Vein hits because it's a high dominate attack, you Shock Charmer it, they have to either pay two or discard two. So it puts them in a really bad spot. So again, we're trying to go for high dominate attacks. So what arrows are we using? We're using around no less than 30 arrows, but typically around 30 to 33 arrows. We're using a full set of Blizzard Bolt and Chilling Ice Vein. Their fuse effects are just insane. Being able to create a Frostbite token with Blizzard Bolt and being able to make them discard or pay one with Chilling Ice Vein, you're either taking cards out of hand or you're taxing their next hand. So it really affects them to where they can't block it out most of the time because it's a dominated attack, and they're having trouble playing cards on their turn. Bolt and Shot's really good in there. Again, the point of this deck is to do high dominate attacks with occasional go again, right? Occasionally you'll get two attacks, even with the Shiver build, and one of those is Bolt and Shot. You drop this in with Shiver, give it +1, it automatically has go again, and it has the reload mechanic if you want to use it. If you don't want to use that one extra resource, so you can fire again. Um, Endless Arrow, I usually only use it actually one of these in the deck. I meant to take this out, so it's only one in the deck. I'll put this in for a little bit more aggro of a matchup because you have to put Shiver in here. Hamstring shot I put in. A lot of people put in remorseless, and that's definitely a good option. I like hamstring shot because when it hits, it taxes their first attack the next turn. So if you flip an ice quake, right, that's one frostbite, and then you play the ice quake, it'll give hamstring shot +3 because it's not just ice and elemental attacks; it's any attack, right? Um, then hamstring shot hits. Now, since it hit because of Ice Quake's ability, that's two frostbites. Then you have hamstring shot's ability. Now that taxes three. So their first attack, if they play an attack first, is going to cost three more. Just off a Ice Quake hamstring shot. You know what I mean? So you can obviously see how this is going to start taxing their hands. I run two Frostfangs because of the discard effect it has. It's really good, especially if you can Ice Quake this card. You have it, it's hitting for 8, and if it hits, it's going to take two cards from hand. I use also finally use Frostlock is my final set of bows. So I have 18, 21, 24, 27 bows in the main board, and then I'll side in around 6 bows. Normally I'll side in my cold waves. It's really good, especially for some of the high aggro matchups. You could put remorseless in your sideboard if you want. That's another good one. These are just what I have right now. Sleep Dart's really good against the Briar matchup, against anybody that has an activated ability. Even in the Mirror matchup, it's really good. Um, it's also really good for any hero that has an activated ability as their hero ability. It's really good for that. You also could do Searing Shot, so they'll lose one life, is really good for that. But yeah, overall, that's the arrows I'm running. For non-attack actions, the thing you need to know about my non-attack actions is they are pumping your attacks. Because if you want high dominant attacks, you want everything that's not an arrow to try to pump that and make it even taller. So for that, I use a full set of Ice Quakes. Their ability to where any attack that hits creates a frostbite. So if you flip this and then play it and then dominate an arrow, you're basically guaranteeing 2 frostbites a turn every time you flip one of these and play it, unless they can somehow block it all out. Especially the red ice quakes. You flip a red ice quake, you play it, and then you load a chilling ice vein and fuse it. Now all of a sudden your chilling ice vein is hitting for 8 dominate, and if it hits, it's going to create a second frostbite, and it's going to cause them to have to get rid of a card from hand. So they're going to have a 3-card hand, maybe 4 if they have an arsenal, but they have 2 frostbites. So you can see how this quickly becomes really oppressive. I'm running Weave Ices, 3 reds in the main board, and in the sideboard, if I'm playing a heavy control matchup like Oldheim, I'll side in 3 yellow Weave Ices. Channel Lake Frigid's a big one. It's not a pump, but it's the one that attacks them. I run Polar Blast at blue because it's really good. You play it from Arsenal, it creates a frostbite, and it draws you an additional card. Winter's Bite is really good for disruption and pitch as well. But my pumps are Ice Quake and Weave Ice mainly, and then Pulse of Volt Haven, obviously. And then for anything that's not a pump is a disruption card. So it's like half pumps, half disruption. The pumps are Weave Ice, Ice Quake, and Pulse of Volt Haven. And the disruption is Polar Blast, Channel Lake Frigid, Blizzard if I have a high aggro matchup, and then Winter's Bite help me, just so you're disrupting their hand while also giving them frostbites, right? On a good turn, not even a great turn, just a good turn, you're going to give your opponent 1 to 2 frostbites, and you're going to take a card from their hand. So it basically doesn't allow your opponent to play on their turn unless they're a really low to the ground deck. Then I have some other ones like 3 of a kinds in here, lightning presses in here to get over the top of those, controlling matchups. And yeah, that's the base. In the main board, we have 18, 21, 24, 25. I always have to do this just in case. 28, 37, 39, 40, 43, 46, 49, 52, 55, 58. So I actually have 61 cards in the main board, and I'm usually running 58 to 61 ish. And I know it's a little high, but for her and for Lexi, you can run 64, 65 cards in the main deck. And then for high control matchups, I'm actually running around 68 cards because I don't want to run out of threats. You want to have enough bows, you want to have enough threats, because the biggest thing you can happen with Lexi, even with the Shiver build, is to run out of threats, and that's just not good. In the sideboard, I have Blizzard. This is mainly for the high aggro matchups. I'm playing against a Briar or a Katsu or even a Lightning Lexi, something like that. I'll put in Blizzard. Anything that has a lot of go again, just to stop that. Cold Waves, something that I side in. The one card I don't see a lot of Lexi's running, which blows my mind, especially with this one, is Poison the Tips. Poison Tips is such a good card, right? if you have Icequake and Arsenal, you pitch a blue, you play Icequake, right? Then you play a Poison the Tips. You still have two resources in hand, or two resources, right? With two cards in hand. Like so, like the ideal hand, right, is a Icequake and Arsenal, and then you have four cards in hand with a blue, an ice card, and a arrow with poison the tips. So you play your Icequake out of hand, gives it +3. Then you play your poison the tips, which is going to make them discard a card if a attack if arrows hit, basically. Then you play Chilling Ice Vein, dominate it, fuse it. So now you have an 8 dominated ice card or fuse card that is going to create two frostbites from the ice quake and from it hitting. It's going to make them discard a card from poison the tips, and it's going to make them discard a card to pay from Chilling Ice Vein. So like on an ideal turn, you can give two frostbites, you can make them discard or just get rid of a card twice, right? So they're going to have a 2 card hand, maybe a 3 if they have an arsenal with two frostbites. So you just eliminated their hand. Ideal, granted, that's an ideal turn, but that's just some of the things you can do with this deck. Electrify is really good for pushing through damage. Like if you dominate attack for 8 and then you hit it and it's electrified, then that's 11 damage, right? And it allows you to draw a card. And if you flip it in Arsenal, it gives go again. So this Ice Quake and Lightning Press and Pulse of Volt Haven will give you that occasional go again and your 3 of a kind, so you can get these swing turns, right? So it's basically like 70% dominate attacks and then 30% high go again attacks when you have like the opportunity to do so. I just think this deck's pretty good against the control and mid-rangey matchups because it's going to tax their hands a lot, and they're not going to have the resources to in order to keep tempo with you, and you just keep chipping damage, 6 to 10 damage a turn. And if you're not playing an Oldheim or a Bravo or like a super control dash, and you hit them for 8 to 9 dominate, they might can block a little bit with their armor the first turn, but after that, you're going to be dealing 5 to 7 damage every turn and pretty much preventing them from playing on their turn. Um, I've done really well with it. I've had games, not this exact list, but like a couple cards different. But I've had games at my local armories where my opponent did not play a turn, legitimately did not play a turn for 3 to 4 turns because they couldn't. Because I was taking 2 cards out of their hand and I was giving them 2 frostbites and they couldn't do anything. I'm not saying this deck's unbeatable by any means. I'm just saying the Shiver build might be more viable for the meta that's upcoming. Obviously, Everfest could change that. We'll have to see what happens with Everfest. So this list is subject to change. But in this lull period that we are going into Everfest, I do think that this will be a very viable deck for you to use. Let me know what you think of the deck, though. I'd be really interested to see agreements or disagreements. Totally fine. Either one is good. But yeah, let me know what you think of the deck. Let me know what your plans are with Lexi as a whole. Maybe it's someone different. How do you think Lexi does in the meta going forward? And yeah, just give me your thoughts. I'd really like to know anyone's thoughts on this and what they're looking at. But hopefully you all enjoyed the content, whether you did or didn't. It's totally fine. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want. If not me, go to another Flesh and Blood creator, do the same thing for them. Hopefully, we can get more people seeing this game. But yeah, I'll see you all next time on TCG Talk, and I hope you all have a great rest of your week. Thank you all so much.